Welcome to this next episode of the Beloved Miracles Couples Project. Today I'm reaching from Norway to Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Hello, Otis and Evelyn.
Hi.
Hi.
How
Evelyn
are
and
you?
Otis are a couple of rebels on a mission to shake you up, wake you up, and help you finally make the switch from simply existing to living a life you love. So Otis and Evelyn, where does your story begin?
So glad to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, I'm definitely glad to be here.
So our story, there's many different angles that we can take this in,
Yes.
but I would say our story together begins back in college. We met in school.
Yes, we did.
At university.
Yes, University of New Haven in West Haven, Connecticut.
Connecticut, that's right. So back then I was a pretty closed off young lady. Not much personality because I had a pretty rough upbringing. I grew in a house full of domestic violence. My days were spent full of just fear and scared all the time, listening to fights, constant fighting between my parents. And I really don't think any child should ever have to go through that. I had to grow up very fast. I found myself in a period of time where I was living without both of my parents, away from them in a different country. And for a couple of years, because neither of them could really care for me. So I grew up feeling unworthy. I grew up feeling unloved. And I grew up feeling alone, and I developed a very thick skin. So, and looking back at it, it was more to protect myself, protect myself because I was hurt so much by those that I loved. I never really thought, and I would tell Otis this all the time, that I never really thought I would marry. I never cared to marry. I never cared to have love in my life because of those beliefs that I had formed. So when I met Otis, my wall was up, right? It was completely up. And there comes this charming, handsome guy. And he changed it all for me, for sure. So that's kind of like a little bit about my past and up until that moment where we met.
So
I am
bump into this wall. I mean, did you need a helmet to protect your head?
No, I didn't. And the reason why, I am a born risk taker. I'm just a risk taker. I've been carefree my whole life. Said what I meant what I said. That's just how I actually live life. I give the credit to my mom. My mom kind of gave me the green light to just, she's like, just be you 100%. That's it. People will love you or like you, or if they don't worry about it. I grew up in a very supportive house. So my upbringing was the exact opposite. There was discipline. There was, stuff that needed to happen, tell the truth. Everything, everything that great parents do is what I had in the house. I grew up in an apartment. I wouldn't say I was wealthy, but we took like trips, a lot of road trips. So we had a lot of family time. So I was just more just living. Like I live moment to moment. So I don't worry about what happened yesterday. I'm moment to moment to moment. So in that particular moment, I saw a very, pretty young lady, and I was like, hey, I'm interested in her. So I just became myself, and I just started, talking to her and stuff like that. And I didn't know I was breaking any walls down. I was just actually being myself. I was just being myself, making her laugh, just showing her a good time.
Yeah.
Just being myself, just being spontaneous, ridiculous, outlandish, as she would say, charming. I mean, I'm just doing what I normally do in a given day.
Yeah, I come to find out that I'm an empath. So not knowing that, but I could read his energy, and his energy was so pure and allowing. So in essence, it started to really slowly bring down my walls. And I fell in love with this dude. And I'm like, I would joke around with him. I'm like, I think you gave me something to drink with something in it, because I never have ever even imagined that we would have been, fast forward a few years, married. And we got married in 2000.
Yes.
And our first daughter, who's now 15, came the very next year. So she didn't give us a chance. You know, she tells us she had plans from up in heaven.
Yeah.
And she's like, God, I want them, so I'm ready. That's what she said.
Yes.
I think it's the funniest thing. But we stayed in New York City. Otis moved to New York after he finished his master's, and he did his whole banking deal.
Yeah, I was a financial analyst at a bank and at a non-for-profit, but I'm great at numbers, great at analyzation, but I'm a great people person. Yeah. So I never went the people person route in school. I went with the easier of the two because I didn't really have to think. I was one of those individuals that I could look at something for about 15, 20 minutes, have it memorized, take a test, get an A.
Smart guy.
So I just went with that instead of being the person, like being a people person. But after a while, I kind of came home and told her once we moved to Georgia that I cannot do another banking job. Like I am the type of person, once it becomes routine, I'm done with it. Like, so after the 3 months, you know, that 90-day, I guess, trial of like, do we like you? Do you like us? After that was over and everything became routine, I was bored. I was like, I need something else. So I started teaching. So now I actually teach school where I call it a playground. So I don't go to work per se, I go to play.
Yeah, it's not work when you love what you do, right? Which is part of our message. You know, just do what you love. So he jumped. We call that a jump.
Yes.
And he jumped from a career that was quote unquote stable and well providing to being a teacher. Now, teachers don't get paid very much. I don't know about Norway, but they don't get paid very much. But he felt passionate about it, and I was supportive because I understood that he was not satisfied. And for me, I was growing in my whole corporate ways, climbing the corporate ladder in human resources. And I was one of the youngest in management. By the time I was like 23, 24,
yeah.
I was already a regional VP in human resources, traveling, corporate, you know, car and Amex and all that stuff, and making good money, 6 figures. But I was empty. I started to feel empty. I started to question everything. And Otis would always ask me, well, why are you doing this? You know, like, I'm basically a single dad. You're never home. You're always traveling. Like, this is not cool. And I'm like, oh, you're just trying to stop me. You know, I'm trying to live and this is my dream. But it took about a few years for me to really start, like, his words started to sink in. I feel like it was divine intervention. I heard in my head or in my heart, you know, why are you really doing this? You know, and who are you really doing this for? And come to find out that in my quest for, I need to succeed so I can get my mom out of the situation. I need to make money so I can get my mom out of this abusive situation, because she was dependent on my dad. She never worked or was allowed to work, which I thought it was insane that a grown woman wasn't allowed to work. I needed to provide. So I became that provider, and I never turned that off. So as an adult, I was just go, 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 because I have to make all this money. I have to be successful. I have to provide. That need was no longer there. As a grown-up, we had married, family, you know, my own husband. My mom, she decided to part ways with my dad, but I continued in that way. And when I finally had that aha moment, that I really wasn't doing this for the right reason, that's not really who I was, that was my big turning point. And I said, I can't do this anymore. So I ended up demoting myself about 3 levels down, and I took a hourly job, which was a cakewalk. It was still in human resources, but I didn't need to think about it. I didn't need to worry about anything. I didn't need to manage people. And I was happy for a while. Then that voice came back again. Well, this is easy, but is this really what you want to do? You know? And I'm like, oh gosh, Otis, something's happening. I don't know what to do. I'm not happy. What am I supposed to do? And years for me to really jump, really decide, like, okay, I don't know what's on the other side. And this just happened last year, March. After years of struggling and going back and forth with myself and asking and praying for guidance, I kept hearing it. You just need to leave. You need to quit and start your own thing. You need to quit and follow your passions. I wouldn't because I was still scared. I wouldn't because I couldn't see around the corner. It didn't fit, you know, the Evelyn, you know, rule. You need to be able to see what's on the other side, because everything needs to be planned out, or else I was in my head and I wasn't in my heart. My heart was telling me what to do, but I wouldn't allow it. And finally, I had to be placed in a position where it was either I would get laid off or I would need to take a pay cut. I feel that was God's way of kind of kicking me in the butt so that I can actually leave, because he knew me. He knew that the deal that was placed in front of me, no way, I wasn't going to take it. So I said, you know what, God, okay, I hear you. I'm scared, but I'm going to do this anyway because I trust you. And I finally came to that place of trust. And I look at Otis, I'm like, you've always trusted. You've always walked your path. And if it didn't feel right, he always jumped without worrying. And I always worried. So we're like the yin and yang.
Yes.
And now, ever since I jumped, he's provided in such miraculous ways.
Yes.
For myself, you know, the spiritual work that I've done and that I'm still doing, and financially, we had side businesses and those businesses have blossomed.
Yes.
Now we have room for creative projects.
Yes.
And then it was like, okay, now what? What do I do? I've jumped. Okay, Lord, now what? And he said, document. He said, turn on your phone, record, and document. I'm like, oh, wow. Yes. Okay, I'll document. And that's what I've been doing. I documented my first 30 days in video, and that's in our blog.
Yes.
Because I wanted people to see what happens after you jump. What happens after you say, enough is enough. I can no longer just exist. I have to live my life. And ever since then, we've been on a quest to awaken people to this reality that we're not who we think we are. Most of the times we're just programmed to be robots, to you know, just purely exist and not live. A lot of us are unhappy. We're walking around unhappy and unsatisfied and not really knowing why. Because that was me for a long time, so I can relate to that. And we feel so passionate about the subject of there's more to life than what you see.
Yeah.
And this is where it comes from. So our idea is to start a movement at this point in our lives. This is where we are. We have several income streams, so we're okay there. But now we want to independently just start a movement to help others find their way. Kind of like we talk about the Matrix.
Yes.
Right? It's like, give them the blue and the red pill.
And let them decide.
Let them decide which one they want to take.
Yeah, we're trying to teach people how to look at the world without seeing around the corner and knowing exactly where you're going to land. Mm-hmm. You know, I was in Evelyn's journey. I would always shoot in the fact that it's not the landing, it's the journey that's the best part of it. Because you're gonna get to that landing. It's about the journey that you take to get there. And you know, she had to, you know, I know she had to do her own growth. So I was just, you know, cheerily like, keep going, do what you got to do. You know, financial person, I'll make sure the house was fully running. Whatever you want to do, we're gonna be fine either way. So don't feel like, you know, you're putting the house in jeopardy or the kids or me in jeopardy by making life altering decisions for yourself. That's better. So it's just like, you know, the encouragement, you know, I wanted to make sure, because, you know, we're not just like husband and wives, we're best friends. So in some cases, we'll talk to each other, not as, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, but as Evelyn and Otis best friends. Like, hey, let's go out, let's go sit someplace, let's talk, but let's, you know, we're not husband and wife right now, we're best friends. So let me tell you this, you tell me that, you just go back and forth. And then we come up with great ideas. And this way we help each other. Yeah. So, you know, she'll help in certain parts of me and I'll help her be able to make sure that, you know, like she said, she has to see around the corner. Yeah. I'm teaching her how you don't have to see around the corner. Just take the corner. Once you take the corner, whatever's there is gonna be right there. Don't worry about it.
It's amazing. Like you're okay. You can get scraped up a little bit because it's not easy, but life has a way of giving you the next step. And it's so clear to me now. And I just want to share that with everyone. But it's funny, when Otis talks about us being friends, we literally say, okay, can I talk to my friend now?
Yes.
That's how we separate, you know, marriage and friendship. Can I talk to my friend now?
Yes.
I just want to talk to my friend. I don't want you to try to fix anything from a husband point of view, because, you know, men like to fix. Whenever they see their wife with a problem, they want to fix it. Sometimes we don't want you to fix it. We just want you to listen. So, you know, we'll separate it that way. And it's worked very well for us.
Yes. I mean, a lot of people find it unique because we do spend, with the business, we do spend a great deal of time together. So everyone always asks the question, like, don't you guys get tired of each other? It's like, no. Like, it's because it's a norm for us, but it's strange to others. So it's just like, no, it doesn't feel strange because, you know, the day is different and the moment's different. So, I mean, if I'm going to do something, there's no one else I'm going to want to do it with than my best friend. So now that my best friend's on board and I'm doing this stuff, of course, it's great because this is a person I want to share with anyway. Yeah. So we're doing it together, so it works out beautifully.
Yeah.
Fantastic, guys. It's so interesting. You mentioned the Matrix recently. When my wife was pregnant with my son, you know, you go through that process. I'm sure you went through the same. You know, what are we going to name this child? And for a boy, it was Nathaniel, but I was adamant his nickname's going to be Neo.
That is great. I mean, we did have those conversations, but you know, being a guy, I simply said that when it comes to the girls, if you have a girl, I have no say in the name whatsoever.
I had my name already for the
girl. And then for our son, she said I could pick out the name for our son. You know, and I had one name picked out, but I changed it because in the midst of us getting married, my father passed away. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of gave him some of his grandfather's lineage. So his middle name happens to be his grandfather and his uncle's name. So his uncle takes the credit for that being his name.
I understand. But now in reference to the Matrix, this word system is something that I continue to ask couples about where, and I'd like to ask you that question also, like, where did a system begin to be at play, or did you start to notice systems applying in what you guys were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us, we once, even while we were working,
yes,
okay, even while having jobs, we were always looking for systems that worked better to attain money, most specifically wealth. Because we knew we didn't want to be like, you know, 98% of the population, you know, dead broke and retired with no money. You know, we knew that we wanted more for our lives and we wanted to live and have great experiences. We love to travel, so we always, you know, try to go somewhere.
Yes.
But we knew that we couldn't do the things that we wanted to do without some good financial backing.
Yes.
So we were always looking for okay, how else could we make money? Okay. And we did encounter systems along the way that have helped us increase our income. And that has allowed us to, you know, get rid of debt and do things that, you know, just most people could only hope to do. You know, like we just came off a cruise and we got to swim with dolphins, and that was amazing. And if you haven't done it, please do.
It's great.
Wonderful.
It's a wonderful treat.
And
absolutely.
Everyone that I've spoken with so far, like, oh, I wish I can just do it. I'm like, well, why can't you? Why don't you? Go do it. You know, put on your list and make it a reality. We so these the different systems that we've been able to implement. Encounter and implement, because you can't implement everything you see out there. But we found some really good stuff. And it's helped us tremendously.
Yes, we definitely have. We found some great systems. I mean, she's absolutely right. But in the midst of finding great systems, we found some really horrible systems. And we realized what system works best for us.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And which systems we don't work with us. So, I mean, I think, you know, for the viewing public, if you're doing it, you need to find a system that fits your personality, fits your lifestyle, fits what you're about, and what you're trying to be. Not what everyone has told you, but what you're really trying to evolve to be.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. In the system, you need to make sure that the system fits you and what you're truly about.
Right.
Okay, and it sounds.
I hope that answers your question.
Well, it does, but yeah, rather loosely, right? I mean, it sounds like what you guys have implemented are multiple systems. Like, I don't hear just one. I hear that there are a number of systems. Do they stand independently, or do they actually at least lean on each other and strengthen and overlap, or are they?
Yeah, they definitely lean on each other. Yes, they do, and they flow very well, you know, and there's a lot of automation in that system, so that we're not tied to a desk, you know, or to a phone all day long, so that we could actually leverage, you know, other people's time, other people's products, things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which would allow for you to travel, to do different things, you know, all the stuff that some people believe is just set aside for the super rich or wealthy. It allows you to actually do that. Once you start really doing the research and understanding how the systems work for you and putting it into place and getting it to work, you'll see that, oh, you know, this is really, I can do this at this particular point in time. Oh, well, I'm here. Or if I'm over in this particular destination, as long as I have Wi-Fi, I can actually still work. So I can work for 2 hours while I'm sitting on the beach looking at this beautiful sunrise or sunset. Yeah. Like, I can do work in a place where I want to do work. And then when I'm done, I just can close up and enjoy the scenery. So it's about making sure you're putting yourself in a place where the system works for you and you're enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah, a lot of people call it like digital lifestyle or laptop lifestyle.
Yes.
It is out there. It exists. It's real and it's alive. It's healthy.
It does
but a
work.
lot of people don't understand how to do it. So when they jump into these type of systems without guidance, they tend to make some really big mistakes that are costly to them. And then they think, well, this doesn't work. You know, this is not right. This is, you know, a scam. And they walk away and they go back to their jobs and they're still miserable. You know, so we always challenge people, because we coach as well. So we always challenge our students to look beyond, you know, the immediate need to see financial gain right away, because there's a level of work that you need to put with anything in life.
Absolutely.
Nothing comes as easy as we would like. We need to first learn the system. How does it actually operate? And then go out there and implement it, and then give it its due time to work, to start to work for you.
Yes, and you know, once again, you can't see around the corner. You actually just have to turn the corner. So we also implement that and put that in type coaching as well, that you need to just go with it, but you can't just look around the corner. You got to actually enjoy the process and turn the corner and then see what's out there, and then you adjust so you can turn the next corner.
Step by step, because a lot of people tend to jump into too much too fast. And that's also a problem. That's a huge problem inside of our particular industry, the lack of focus.
Trying to implement too many systems at once.
Yeah, for us, we started with one system, and then we added another, and then we added another. So right now we have 4, and they all go, they intertwine.
Hand in hand.
And we have the automation in place, so we can easily add something else, and it continues to work. Now, it seems, and it's interesting, as you're learning to develop your skill set, when you add that other piece, that piece grows faster. So like, you know, for example, we just incorporated another system, and we made close to $10,000 in 9 days. So, you know, a lot of people will look at that and say, well, how? Show me. I want to do this because I want my $10,000 in 9 days too. But you have to really consider the source, and you have to consider your personal experience. Yes. So there's a lot of idea out there that you can just push a button and get rich overnight, and that's all a lie.
Doesn't work that way. You got to put in hard work and effort.
Yeah.
Hard work and effort.
But it's an exciting, for me personally, I know I won't ever go back to corporate. I've already set this to myself as a commitment, because I want to be happy, and I know I won't be in a corporate setting. And that's nothing against people that love a corporate job. We need people to have corporate jobs. We need our nurses and our firemen and our policemen. Yes. We need our doctors. but personally, never again. But for example, Otis, he's a teacher. He loves it, but it's not work for him, because as long as you love what you do, and that's what we're trying to push. Our thing is, we want you to switch, you know, to make that, and you mentioned this earlier, make that switch. There's a switch that happens. Yes. And you almost don't really, sometimes you do kind of know when it happens, but there has to be a switch. And when you feel that little switch, you start to see life differently. And that's the moment where you allow for change to come into your life. And that's the moment where you're awake long enough to see the little hints that the universe gives you, because
yes, the breadcrumbs.
Man, you're like bombarded from all different angles with all this information, and it's up to us to decide if we're going to actually pay attention long enough to act on that, you know, because we're not always going to get what we ask if we're not ready. And I've learned that.
Yes, you'll get what you need when you absolutely need it. So you have to just be prepared and open and go through the process and take the steps that you need to take in order to get to that point at the end. So you will always get what you need, not exactly when you perceive needed, but if you have the faith and the belief, it's going to come right at the right specific moment. And you will be so thankful that it came at that time than the previous moment that you wish it was upon you.
Yeah, because it's hard to look at a certain, like at a door being closed as a good thing when you don't know why. You know, it takes for you to look back to really see why those doors were closed in the first place. So, you know, I do feel that as long as we're you know, not only just thinking about or wishing for it, but also sitting on your mat and even meditating on it, you know, not just praying about it. Oh God, please, 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 please. I don't feel that that's going to get us anywhere. Our work is to visualize it, to imagine it, to really see us and see how it feels to have this thing even before we don't have it. And that was very key for us to really, for me especially, to understand that it's not just that desire that's placed in me. It's because I'm meant to have it. But now how do I have it? I have to project out and imagine that I have it already. Walk like I have it. Feel like I have it. And that takes a level of effort that a lot of people are not willing to do. To sit and really visualize your life, what you want your life to look like, and go out there and get it and act on those little breadcrumbs, those little you know, nuggets that you get, those little signs that you get, and just walk in faith, you know.
Act like you already got it.
It's exciting. It's been fun. It's been fun to see the magic in this thing called life. And we wish that for everyone. So
absolutely.
We just want people to wake up. So many of us are still asleep. And you know.
Yes. Absolutely. So specific to couples who are building together, what advice to bring this kind of full circle, what advice would you offer couples who are building together?
I think we would say definitely make sure that your lines of communications are open, that you talk about everything, you make the decisions together. I can't say how many times I'm in the middle of class and I have a smartwatch and I'll hear it chime and I'll look and I'll see her name and she'll have a question for me. Like it's something that, you know, you think it's monetary where she just can make the decision herself, but she wants my input and she's not going to make the decision until she gets my input. And then I'll quickly look at it and, you know, I get to a point where I can fire back and let her know what my input is. And, you know, and sometimes I'll say, you know, you didn't have to wait for me to actually make that decision. You can go ahead and do it by yourself because, you know, I'm out, you're home. I don't want to slow up the process because it may take longer for me to get back to you. And she's like, nope, we're partners and your input is just as important as mine. So it's making sure that everyone knows that it's a level playing field and that one person is not better than the other or supersedes the other, but that you're constantly in communications, talking about the ups, the downs, the bads, your fears, what's going right, what direction you should take, and everybody should be on board with whatever direction it's going in.
I would also say it's so important when you're in the space in your life that you want to create transformation. If you want to, for example, go to a conference, a personal development conference, you know, a workshop,
Yes.
that is a couple, you try to get your partner on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
To go with you and experience those events, those workshops, those,
Yeah.
because there's
Excellent
so
point.
many aha moments, and every single event that we have gone to that has been meant for the purpose of you know, uplifting us and helping us see a good way of just bringing our dreams to fruition. We've done it together.
Yes.
Because you need to grow as a couple. If one of you is out there doing all of that stuff without the other, eventually what's going to happen, you're going to drift apart, because you're going to change too much for that other person. So you kind of want to make sure that you're growing together as a unit, and personally, not just professionally in your business, but growing together personally.
Absolutely. I mean, and also definitely when especially working couples, you also have to understand, and as we do know as well, there's a cutoff point. Like there's a cutoff point in the day where business has to stop and you just have to be a couple. Yeah. Like you can't talk about business all the time, but there's points where, you know, maybe, you know, one of you are still working, so the other one, you come in and you have to have those business conversations, but they shouldn't go on all night. And we honestly know that sometimes that's what's going to happen, because a lot of decisions, a lot of stuff has to happen, but you try to have it where you kind of departmentalize everything. Like, all right, from this time to this time, we're just going to talk about business. Mm-hmm. From this time to this time, you know, we'll do family time with the kids if you have children. And from this time to this time, it's just us. It's just nothing else. The kids are asleep. It's just our time, you know. So we try to make sure we do a lot of that stuff. We do stuff with the kids. You know, we talk about business, and then we have time for ourselves, because in the end, you're still a couple. Yeah. So you got to make sure you're balancing out that particular portion of it, because I think that is as helpful as anything else.
Yeah.
And balance. Yeah, I hear that, right? To bring that harmony and the balance. And then as we refer to here, I mean, together, and I hear you guys exemplifying that, you know, together is the overcoming. It's one thing for the individual to do it, but it's an entirely different thing, isn't it, when we can come together as two and overcome.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean,
all the time.
I think as Evelyn pointed out, it's great when you go to the seminars. Being a risk taker, someone who's I would say pretty much not like carefree, but just free. It's good because, you know, for me, I get the confirmation or the reaffirming of like you're doing what's right, like you've been doing what's right as long as you possibly have known. But then to see her transformation, her growth, her stuff, like that's exciting as well. And sometimes I'm more excited that she's getting it and she's like letting all the stuff fall off. Then I'm like, oh yeah, I got it. But I'm just happy, like, yeah, I'm glad that she's working it out and she's going. So you have that personal cheerleader that's there, like supporting, and your accountability partner that's right there to hold you accountable for that stuff.
So as an example, I obviously had issues with my parents, specifically with my dad. And I had a lot of resentment, a lot of anger because of all the abuse. And I had to come to a point where I needed to let that go. I needed to forgive. And man, that was hard. That was so hard to do. And I'm like, I can't do this. I don't see how. And there were times where I would just say it, okay, I forgive him. But no, not really. And I still think there are layers of forgiveness. But there came a moment where it became so clear what was holding me back from that next level of blessing. And I heard that voice again. It's that intuition, you know, your angels, God, saying you need to pick up the phone and you need to call your father. And you need to tell him from the heart, you know, how you feel and how it was for you truly. And tell him that you forgive him, not for him, for yourself. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I still remember this. I just picked up the phone and I dialed, and I've got the phone here in my ear, and I'm thinking to myself, am I really going to have this conversation right now? It was almost an out-of-body experience, but I did it. And he said, I understand. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm so sorry that I hurt you, and I love you, and please forgive me. And I just said, I do, I forgive you. And a weight lifted off of me in a way that I can't explain. And since that moment, the level of change in me and the blessings that have come, it's like pouring rain on me and the family. I think that those are important moments to have. So I encourage people to really dig deep in themselves and explore their pain, because we all have a level of pain. We all have a level of, my gosh, I wish that hadn't happened to me. That level of, you know, they did this to me. You know, I'm the victim here. They did this. And explore that and try to resolve it. You know, make it your mission to resolve that, because your greatest blessing lies on that other side of forgiveness. It's a beautiful thing.
Wow. I mean, that really brings it full circle, what you just shared. And that was my experience in my marriage with my wife as well. Very similar victim, perpetrator, and rescuer, as we call here the V.P.R trap. The rescuer is the real subtle one. So thank you for what you shared, because in many ways, you're already applying what we call the 4 declaration formula. You did that with your father, and it truly works miracles. Guys, I want to thank you so much for this time that you've made to share your heart and your soul and your systems and the journey that you've had together from before knowing each other to knowing each other, and then what you're doing now, as you refer to as best friends. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and a shining star example to many couples.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're more than glad to share. We're glad you gave us this opportunity. I mean, it was wonderful. We're so happy.
All right. Well, then for now, signing off from Norway, I'll say thank you so much, Otis and Evelyn.
Thank you.